A very good afternoon to everybody on Tuesday, the 19th of August. It's 12:30 here in South Africa, which means it's time for another 2-hour live at the waterhole extravaganza. My name's Ben Coley. I will be guiding you across our variety of cameras in southern and eastern Africa, and we will see what the bush has on offer for us today. We've started out at Midikwe Game Reserve, up at Tower Lodge with their waterhole and a beautiful group of elephants and a few waterbuck and probably a few other things that we are yet to discover. But what a lovely way to start the show. If this is the first time that you are tuning in to Live at the Waterhole, well, as the name suggests, this is live and interactive. I'm here to answer your questions, read out some of your comments. If there's anything you want to know about what you're seeing, or anything else for that matter, with regard to nature or possibly even science in general, you are welcome to send through all of your comments and questions to the address that you see on the screen. We would love to hear from you, as we always do. Joanne Mello, I see you're joining us, saying happy Tuesday. Hello to Lenny, and also to Fuzzy Dunlop, saying happy Tawny Tuesday. Absolutely. Let's see. Maybe we're graced with a cat today, but for now we have a rampaging herd of elephants who are not happy about something. Possibly this bull who's emerging from the water has disturbed them, and they've decided to trundle off into the distance in a cloud of dust. It's all rather dramatic, isn't it? It's something definitely upset them. What did you say, buddy? Just getting out of the water. Apparently that's a sufficient distance to make them relax, but maybe they were just a little uncomfortable with the presence of that bull, or something else happened that we were unaware of. He looks a little bit sheepish, though, doesn't he? Yeah, it looks like order has been restored, but maybe that's it for the drink today. Those eddies are going to disappear into the scrub in the background and continue their busy day of feeding, or maybe there's time for a dust bath on the way through. Let's have a look and see. Hello to Mercedes Bean as well. I'm glad you could join us again. It's lovely to be back. Certainly, I did a few last week, but nice to be back on air and sharing the next couple of hours with all of you. It's also having a little bit of a gallop, a burst of energy up at Tower Lodge. Not sure what's going on. But this big bull has decided that all the other elephants leaving the area, they've stirred up the mud nicely for him. He's going to add to that and have a good quality mud bath, splashing mud all over his underside there, up behind the ears, all to facilitate that cooling protection from the sun. Mr. Eddie Mental, you're in Perth still, where you often are, but you're saying you've got severe weather warnings tonight. Well, I hope everybody is safe, batten down the hatches, as they say, and, well, maybe you get some good photos. I always look forward to summer. In a perfect world, I want a nice view of the horizon, no rain where I am, but a beautiful lightning storm in the distance. Always a nice opportunity to get some long exposure photographs of some lightning strikes. But no sign of any rain yet. Forecast for the next couple of weeks is still to be relatively clear, but the temperatures are warming slightly, so we are seeing or hearing one or two birds. Migrants are returning. I was out quite late last night. I have to say it was quite chilly last night, but I was down close to the Clisiri River, doing some star-related activities as always. I'll be out again tonight doing the same thing, so very much taking advantage of the more stable winter months. I do worry what happens when the seasons begin to turn. We get more cloudier skies, but I can't do much about it. So just live with the problem, I suppose. Jane Ludlow, I don't know what upset the elephants. They seem to have relaxed now. I wasn't actually watching the screen when they turned and started fleeing the way that they did. I can only assume it was something to do with this bull. They didn't like his approach, so maybe he said something. Maybe they just got a surprise. Elephants are surprisingly jumpy for such a massive and powerful animal. It's quite easy to scare an elephant. Um, Never quite sure how good their visual acuity is. I think it's similar to us. They have slightly better night vision than we do. As far as I know, they're only seeing two colours as opposed to three, but I'm not quite sure what the sort of resolution of their eyes is. But it just takes a little movement, potentially something very small that can scare one or two. And if the matriarch says, let's go, nobody asks any questions. But say, whatever happened, they seem to have regrouped and everybody has relaxed again for now, at least. Be interesting to see if this bull heads in their direction, whether they react in the same way. Can't quite see whether he's in full must, but if he is potentially got intentions, maybe the dominant females in that herd were none too impressed by his advances. He looks a little bit antsy, though. He's waved his trunk in an aggressive manner to, I think that's an egret on the lower right-hand side of the screen, but this sort of the tilted leg and things, he looks like he might be a bit feisty, so I imagine it was something that he did which upset the rest of the herd. Now, France, do I think animals ever look into the stars for anything? Orientation, season determination, understanding the passage of time? France, as much as I would love to say yes, I don't think so for the reasons that you suggested there, with the exception maybe of orientation. I don't believe that the animals are able to look up, recognize a particular pattern of stars and say, good, the rains are coming, which is, of course, what we did. That is the origins of time as we know it. The entire concept of time, the language we used, is all based on humans' astronomical observations and making associations with what was visible or what was rising and setting at sunrise and sunset in conjunction to what was happening in the world around them, changes of season, temperature, beginnings of rain, the time to plant, time to reap, to sow, to harvest, all based on the movement of the heavens. But to animals, unfortunately, I don't think that, well, that we know of, we should say, have made those associations, but certainly we know that various animals use the night sky to navigate if they're mobile at night time, particularly migrational birds. They don't key off specific patterns in the sky, but they can recognize the rotation of the night sky, and they will cue off that to give them a cardinal point, so north, south, east, and wests. And we certainly believe that some marine mammals are able to recognize potentially even individual stars in terms of navigation as well. And of course, this elephant, he's definitely got to be in his bonnet about something. I'm sure he's what upset those females. He seems to be a little bit agitated. But dung beetles, of course, navigating with the sun during the day, the moon when it's up, and then the line of the Milky Way, where they're unable to specifically note the Milky Way itself, but they can see that light gradient as the sky gets darker, and then that lighter stripe and darker again on the other side. We've got unequivocal tested evidence that that is the case. They've done tests with dung beetles in sort of mini mock planetarians, and are able to influence their direction of travel by altering what they see above their heads.
My name is Amy, and today we're going to be doing things a little bit differently.
Wild Earth Impact Foundation is a non-profit that uses the power of wildlife storytelling as a force for good. We create sustainable development projects that showcase conservation stories, empower people, and inspire environmental action. As a registered South African PBO, you can make a tax-deductible donation to the Wild Earth Impact Foundation. To find out more, visit our website. Join our expert guides at dawn for a live, immersive safari as the bush comes to life.
Found ourselves a chameleon, and look how he's changed color.
Every sunrise brings new discoveries.
Pound for pound, a leopard is one of the strongest cats around.
Ask questions, share your thoughts, and connect with nature live and in real time.
Great excitement, great happiness.
Start your day with adventure.
We are here with a male leopard.
Is whatever the gestation period is of the animal, more often than not, that will be the same as the weaning period. There are, of course, exceptions to that. Hyenas suckle for longer than they are pregnant for, but generally speaking, they'll be very, very similar in terms of gestation length versus the weaning period. Obviously, we had a bit of a problem there at the tower with the camera, so we've zoomed across to Jackie's Sabi house. We'll just see if we can get that fixed. And now we've got some terrapins enjoying some of the wintry spring sunshine. Dark-maned leopard, do elephants get ingrained toenails? And I don't think so. I've never heard of it. But you're asking how do they care for their nails or their feet? Well, they can't really in the way that we do. It's just general wear and tear that keeps those nails trim, constant pacing through this dry, dusty environment, lots of abrasive soil and particles there. That just work to keep those toenails relatively short as they are walking. But in captive environments, it can be a problem because they are not being worn away by natural processes. So elephants do get pedicures and care for their feet in captive environments, but we don't have to worry about that out in the wild. Nature takes care of everything. It's a little bit like rodents continuously chewing on things to control their teeth growing as well. Holly, the oxpecker, I'm not sure when the last time a lion was seen on live at the waterhole. I've seen more leopards during this show, which is a sum total, I think, of two, possibly three over the years. I can only recall having one sighting personally whilst live on the show, which was at Cat-Eyed Pan, I believe. It was just a very brief view of what I believe to be two lionesses, but we just saw their tails basically as an elephant bull chased them back off into the bushes, and they never rematerialized, unfortunately. But remember, this is peak lion snoozing hours, so never say never. But we will be fairly fortunate if we are able to see a lion, but we say always live in hope. Lorraine, if you're enjoying the information, there's so much to choose from to give, and hopefully it's sort of relevant and say interesting to listen to. And by all means, ask questions, because there's so much knowledge, or we like to think we have so much knowledge of the natural world. It's very difficult to know what to talk about sometimes. So by you wonderful people sending in your questions and comments, you tend to open areas of my brain that haven't been open for a while. And to be honest, you never know what might come spewing forth. Okay, sounds like our cameras are behaving themselves again, so we are going to head up to Oldonia in Kenya. Beautiful big elephant bull and a line of stripes guarding the near side of the watering hole. Recycled Teenager UK are asking, when elephant herds split up, do they become aggressive rivals to each other? Generally speaking, Recycled Teenager, no, they do not. If they do go off their separate ways, which does happen, herds split, if there is pressure on the resources, if their numbers grow too great and there's not enough food and water in a particular area, a decision might be made by another experienced female within the group to split that herd, and she may lead off a little group who may become completely independent. But if those two herds were to come together at a waterhole, for example, there's very unlikely that there would be any animosity at all. They would greet one another. It would be a delightful occasion. People would swap war stories of what they've been up to, and then potentially will just go on their separate ways again. But remember, elephants are not territorial animals. They don't defend an area. They don't scent mark an area. So they don't worry if there's lots of them in a single area. These home ranges of elephants are very diverse, and they react with regard to the stimulus, the stimuli around them. Where is the food? Where is the water? Quite the gathering of zebras here. Vivian Riemann, that's a good question. You're asking, do crocodiles shed their skin like lizards and like snakes do? What you're referring to there, we call slothing, which is the removal of the entire skin layer, exposing the fresh skin underneath. Crocodiles, because they are reptiles, they do shed their skin, but not in complete units like you would see in a snake. Imagine if we found an entire crocodile skin lying around. That would be quite a cool artifact to bring home with you. But as I understand it, all those individual sort of scales, or like the scutes, as we would call them, on their body, a little bit like the scutes on a tortoise or a terrapin shell, they are shed sort of independently of each other. So they just come off in little bits by rubbing away, but you're never going to find massive swathes of crocodile skin left lying around on the banks or anything, as cool as that would be. So yes, they do periodically sort of molt their skin, but in little bits and pieces, so it's not really noticeable. Mr. Elementary, I want to know if there are other animals that put their tail between their legs when they're scared, like a domestic dog does. Not that I can think of off the top of my head, Mr. Elemental. Why dogs have developed that as an option, I'm not sure. Possibly something about protecting more sensitive areas, maybe. But tails certainly are a very good indication of an animal's mood and stress levels. It's a very important part of body language. We see it in the cats regularly. We see it in elephants. We see it in rhino, but I don't know any that put their tails between their legs as such. An angry lion will be swishing its tail left and right. A really angry one, the tail will be going up and down. When a rhino runs away from something that it's not comfortable with, that tail is held erect from the body and sort of curls up around itself, a little bit like a pig's tail. Elephants also extend their tail out from their body, so it's a little bit more rigid. So lots of communication is done through animals' tails, but I don't know of any other ones that have a specifically noted behavior of putting the tail in between the legs if they are uncomfortable in a situation. Susan, you're saying one ton has been seen over the course of the weekend. Oh, yes, as you said, maybe we'll be lucky and he will show his considerable self to us today. I've still only seen him once or twice on this camera and seems to avoid me for whatever reason. And speaking of tails, Lucy Khodi, you're asking why do they always wag their tails, the zebras? Nobody really knows for sure, Lucy, but it's generally considered to be just a way of controlling external bugs, parasites, ticks from attaching around the anus, around the groin area, but also just to ward off flies that do like to visit that part of the animal. So as far as I know, it's just like having a fly swat, basically. You'll often see zebras standing head to tail from each other, a pair of them, and benefiting from each other's fly swat around the face area as well. Lady McMaster saying hyenas do put their tails between their legs as a sign of submission, not fear. I would agree with you completely. Fear is probably the wrong word. Submissive behaviour, certainly. Even with the dog, yes, it knows it's in trouble, but it's not necessarily fearful. It's apologising, if that's the right way to put it. It's submissive behaviour because it has been led to believe, let's say, that it has done wrong in some form or another.
My name is Amy, and today we're going to be doing things a little bit differently.
If you love watching Wild Earth, here's a little tip. You'll gain access to the channel ad-free. You can rewind and rewatch sightings and gain access to our live Tuesday safaris. There's also behind-the-scenes videos, fireside chats, and every safari live episode, whenever it suits you. It's just the best way to connect with nature.
Learned where the pipe is, they've learnt where the purest water is, and that's where they will always come down. But it's sort of uncanny how sometimes things do happen at the same time. I remember when I was working at Savannah in the Sabi Sands, wow, a long time ago now, like 18 years ago. Pretty much like clockwork, we used to have a cheetah who would come and visit every, was it Tuesday or Thursday? I can't remember now. But it became almost like a standing joke. It was Tuesday morning or Thursday morning, whatever it was, and you knew with a reasonable amount of confidence that there was going to be a cheetah lying on a specific termite mound at sunrise. And it used to happen time after time after time. So I can only assume that was some sort of home rangey territorial patrol being done by this one male cheetah. And if he didn't get distracted in one area for too long, he would take the same path. It would take him around about the same time. He'd cover approximately the same distance each day. And more often than not, he would be found lying on exactly the same termite mound at exactly the same time. It's still a photograph of that specific sighting that I know my parents have got in their house as well, with a cheetah with the sunrise behind it. One of my nicest photos that I took in my early career. Nice to know that it's still up on my parents' wall back in England. Cami, you're asking, would predators not pick up on it if a prey species had a ritual and then take advantage? They can do, Cami. Certainly crocodiles are well known for doing that. But let's take a quick trip to... Ooh, where are we going? I wasn't really listening. Serendella, maybe? But let's see where we end up. It was Serendella. Oh, with our young hippo out and about. So, Cami, yeah, the most obvious example I can come up with there is crocodiles. Crocodiles are well known for learning behaviour, particularly of humans. They say that you should never do the same thing more than 3 times, or you should never come down to the water at the same spot at around about the same time more than 3 times in a row. The first time you go down, if there is a crocodile there, it'll probably just get scared away. The second time, it will sort of, a little light bulb will just start to go in its head and say, hang on a minute, the same thing happened in the same place last time. So it's sort of remembering, and then if you go down a third time, chances are the crocodile will be waiting for you. That may, of course, be a little bit of a old wives' tale from the bush, but it's one that I subscribe to. I don't want to give a crocodile any extra motivation to be waiting for me. But in terms of other predators, they probably do, but whether they would, they're not going to follow a specific animal around and wait for it to do what it normally does. Most predators are opportunistic. If the opportunity is there, then it's great. And if there's a good chance to grab something, they will take it. Dean, you can't always assume that it's a cold day just because you see a hippo out of the water. They do sometimes just choose to go for a little bit of a wander, have a bit of a feed like this guy, or also they will often just sort of lie in the sun as well. You're going to see it more during the winter months than you will in the summer, certainly, but just because you see a camera feed of a hippo out of the water, you can't therefore assume that it's under a certain temperature, for example. But it is slightly unusual to have one out feeding. I mean, this does look like he's still a youngster, so I'm guessing was recently kicked out of his natal pod by the dominant male and has found himself a lovely spot here at Serendella. And maybe he's doing his independence thing and deciding, if I'm hungry at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, I'm going to go and eat some grass. Who says I have to do what other hippos do? I wonder if it's a confidence thing, perhaps, because he's not a fully grown adult male yet. Maybe he's a bit more comfortable coming out at daytime, slightly better visibility. But there are, of course, exceptions to every rule. So I know certain lion prides who would move kilometres and kilometres during the heat of the day and the height of summer. And they did it quite regularly. Why they chose to do it, that I couldn't tell you. But you do see that sort of behaviour being repeated in certain animals that is away from the norm, those ones that haven't read the textbooks. I'm assuming this hippo is also taking the opportunity to have a drink, doing his sort of zebra impression. And Darkmane Lover, you were saying you love seeing hippos out of the water. It's great to see how big they can get. Yeah, you are quite right, Darkmane Lover. Often we don't really give hippos their dues in terms of how massive they can get, because we're so used to just seeing the arch of their spine, those eyes, ears and nostrils sticking out the water, and we tend to forget there's 2 tons of animal attached to that. Certainly, particularly this time of year, it's something you need to be more aware of than in summer, but you should always be aware of hippos, particularly along rivers. If there's thick reed beds and things, it's not unusual to stumble into a hippo who's just chilling in the shade somewhere outside of the water. And I think he just regurgitated that little bit of grass. Interesting. You do sometimes see those next to the side of roads, these little bundles of grass. And so that's from an ecological perspective, one of the things that make hippos so important. They are the link between the nutrient cycle from land to water by defecating in the water, and in this case regurgitating some of that fibrous stuff. That's all now food for the fishes and other little aquatic organisms that are living in the water that otherwise wouldn't have access to those that supply of nutrients. It is interesting to see one drinking like this, Holly. Normally they would just drink whilst they're in the water. It's not often you'll see one perched on the bank like that, drinking like we would expect to see an antelope. Surprisingly active for 1 o'clock in the afternoon, certainly. Darkmane Lover, no, I've never seen a hippo with no tail, actually, that it may have lost, you're suggesting, from a crocodile. No, never seen it. Crocs and hippos generally have a relatively good unspoken truce between them. Crocodile will certainly take a chance at a youngster that's been separated, but pods of hippos and groups of crocodiles live in relative harmony, considering one is a herbivore, the other is a carnivore. The crocodile knows that it's potentially quite literally going to try and bite off more than it could chew. And don't forget as well, hippo skin is some of the thickest skin on any animal in the world. So I think even for a crocodile, it would have to work pretty hard to actually remove a tail. We do see it in things like zebras quite regularly, or giraffes that don't have tails. I think that's usually, for the giraffe, is usually as a result of a lion. But zebras, stallions, well known for sort of biting at each other's tails as well. So a lot of tailless zebras have been caused by intraspecific fighting as opposed to predator experiences or interactions. Time for a nice roll. Or is he going to do his thing? He rolls on his back with his feet up. Oh, I love seeing that. Those stumpy little toes sticking up out of the water. Tristan, you're right. This hippo is indeed loving the spotlight, although it now seems to be that possibly all his antics have exhausted him. Oh no, another little spasm. Can you try the other side? Stick with us, young man. We will make you famous. But that was very nice to see. We often do see hippos lying out on the bank. We've seen lots at Camelthorne recently, but very, very nice to see one just sort of meandering through the bush, having a little bit of a feed and having a drink that way. But now normal order looks as if it has been restored. Hippos doing more stereotypical hippo things. Ansi from Hartenbosch is saying nice roly-poly. Yeah, I haven't heard that phrase for a while. That's a good one, roly-poly. Yeah, but it's nice to see hippos doing that. Again, I remember one in the western sector of the Sands when I was working there, who every evening would put on quite the display. He would thrash around in the water and give us yawns and would roll around and stick all 4 feet up in the air. And he always used to put on a good show. It was very popular amongst guests. And so it's just nice to see animals exhibiting what at least I interpret as the rolling around part as sort of happiness. Of course, the yawning and things is a territorial display, but it's just nice to see animals comfortable in their own skin and generally enjoying life. But yeah, it seems that was all a little bit too much effort. Eyes are now closed. Time to relax for a little bit. And a nice coating of mud, protection against the sun. Wait for those special glands to function if required, producing that hipposudoric acid and norhipposudoric acid that coats the skin to protect it from the UV rays. And as we've mentioned many times before, very rich in antibacterial properties. If we can pan the camera slightly to the right, you can see all of the nasty gashes in that very, very thick skin, but no sign of any infection whatsoever. Very handy when your skin secretes its own antibiotic. Well, we can't see any of those slashes, unfortunately. It is now covered in some dirty, muddy water. But we saw when he was out and about, so quite normal. Lots of aggression shown towards young males by the dominant males within a pod, and that will have led, I'm sure, to his ejection from that family and time to go and start his own life. Just see some of the contours of those scars shining through that glistening coating of mud. Lucy Khadi Serendella Thorny Bush is situated in Thorny Bush, as the name suggests. It is now open to Greater Kruger, so it sort of borders the Timber-Barty Game Reserve. So it's quite close to where I am based in Hoedspruit. I could get to Thorny Bush main gate in about a half an hour's drive from here. So it's next door to the Timber-Barty, basically, and is now so has dropped fences. I was actually with some people yesterday, and we were commenting on how different the Thorny Bush Reserve looks now than it did 10, 20 years ago. Since those fences have come down, the elephants have moved in. They found a great source of food that hadn't been destroyed by large numbers of elephants within an open system. And they have done a number on a lot of the large trees there. Most of the big knobthorns have been not necessarily ring-barked, but you can see have been attacked for that cambium layer. And areas that were once very, very thick, and this is where elephants are very important, of course, for the environment. They're ecological engineers. They have actually opened up a lot of the bushveld in the Thorny Bush region and made it easier to see, remove some of that homogeneous vegetation, allow different vegetation to sprout forth, and a greater diversity of vegetation means more different habitats and a greater diversity of species. So we can actually see elephants have done some good. Of course, overutilization of anything becomes a problem, but left to its own devices over a significant portion of time, nature will always find a balance. It's what it's been doing for billions of years. Picasso, you were mentioning the hairs around the nostrils there. They are very, very thick, sort of vibrissae. They're kind of like whiskers. Oh, ready pully time again. And they are a complete flip. As you would think, they are a sensory organ, like most whiskers are. Remember, it's quite difficult for the hippo to see what is actually underneath its mouth. It's got small eyes placed on the top of the head. So just like an elephant, it's got plenty of sensory hairs on its trunk as well, and particularly around the mouth where it can't see. It just helps the hippo know what it's putting into its mouth. And they're very, very stiff. You will often see evidence of that. If a hippo's been walking down the road, you can see the hippo tracks, and they'll often drag their muzzle just above the surface of the road, that big heavy head designed to be held downwards. And it's not uncommon to see those, almost looks like you would get from porcupine quills, those drag marks from those stiff hairs that are captured in the sand.
Now this leopard that we're looking at is known by the name of Hlalamba.
My full name is Cedric Leslie Dold. I grew up mostly in the Lowveld. I grew up here pretty much on the southern side of Kruger National Park, a place called Marloth Park, for most of my years. Something surprising about myself, I did play drums in a band for many years. Best sighting I presented, we found Hlalamba in the two cubs, and the cubs are just way big.
feels good and it's kind of fun. And I'm sure animals just do things because they like doing them. We like to, or we like to try and give a reason for every single thing an animal does, but sometimes I think they just do things because they can and they want to, and because it feels nice. Well, as Ellie looks as if he's done what he needed to do, let's head back to Jackie's Sabi house for a bit. Oh, what have we got here? African hawk eagle by the look of it. Very cool. Saw one a few weeks ago eating a ground squirrel up at Lentore in Kenya. But not something you see every day. African hawk eagle coming down for a drink. One of my favourite eagles. Love that contrasting black and white coloration. Short but sweet. You can hear the lapwings disputing his presence, and a hippo also having a little bit of a territorial yawn as well. Oh, and an elephant pool party hiding behind the trees there. And the unmistakable noise of the Harvey-Dar ibis. Spouse, you're saying it's nice to see the male and the female Inyala and the size difference, asking if they will stay together for their entire lives and just have one partner. So, but no, they are not monogamous at all. So there's no territoriality in male Inyalas. And if you see a big male with a group of females, chances are he is there for one reason and one reason only, and that is for a mating opportunity. Once that has subsided, or he's done what he's needed to do, or decided he wasn't going to get anywhere, generally he will go off on his own again. They'll form little bachelor herds. You might find them on their own, but they don't hang out, not like zebras where you have a harem society of one male with a group of females that stays together all of the time. The males will immigrate and emigrate out of areas based on mating opportunities. I'm sure at times, if they happen to be in close proximity to each other, it makes sense from a safety perspective to hang out. But there's no monogamy within Inyalas and most of the antelope species for that matter. And this young elephant here has left a perfect saddle on his back. This one little area where the water and the mud didn't quite reach. I think we christen you Patch. That's your new name. Expects it's probably time to have a bit of a dust bath after a dunk in the water. This youngster fiddling with everything on the way past, honing those trunk skills. But no dust bathing for the big one at the back. Love the way they just skim the surface with their trunk, trying not to disturb too much sediment, get any of that thicker layer down closer to the base of the waterhole there. Okay, I think we're going to head over to Botswana, see what is afoot up there. So we're up at Meno Aquenia by the Bateti River in Bots, and a paddling zebra. Look at that for a beautiful reflection. Helga, you're also commenting on those hardy-dars being very vocal. There at Serendella, and also in your garden in KZN. It is very much often the unwanted sound of Africa, particularly in cities where they have become very prevalent. And yes, in the summer months, they do have a tendency to sit on people's roofs and squawk like that from about 4:30 in the morning, much to many people's annoyance. The zebra just taking life easy. Polly also mentioning that beautiful reflection. It's a lovely technique to go for if you're into wildlife photography. Always nice to get a reflection of something, or take that picture and then invert it in post-processing and have a sort of a juxtaposed image, whatever the correct word is. So flip it 180 degrees, just tricks the brain into thinking there's something different happening. Part of the beauty of photography, really, isn't it? It's art. And beauty is in the eye of the beholder. Always good to get the brain to have to think and decipher certain images, something a bit unusual, a bit different from the norm.
Hi everybody, looks like we have just located on a beautiful leopardess known as Tlalamba. Even a hyena coming into the action as well now. Oh my word! She's stalking the hyena now. Leopard, hyena, lion, all together in one shot. Oh! Woo! This is action-packed. My full name is Cedric Leslie Dold. The best driver at Wild Earth, it is me. I believe I'm the best driver. I think so, because I've... best part of my job, I say, is just to try and look out for these animals, track them down. I love tracking animals. I love looking for, you know, fresh tracks, and if you can find them, it's just at the moment of accomplishment. If I wasn't a presenter for Wild Earth, I would be the drummer for AC/DC.
Welcome to Safari Spotlight. We'll be
And you pretend like you're a citizen, eh?
Got no idea what's going on this reserve.
Expecting the unexpected.
Are we stuck down there?
What am I trying to do?
So we have another giant of Mabula.
That was incredible.
This is unbelievable.
It's going to be a spectacular afternoon.
Out here, every moment counts. As a Wild Earth explorer, you won't miss a thing. Watch the Wild Earth channel ad-free, 24/7, and rewind if you want to catch something again. Enjoy behind-the-scenes videos, fireside chats, and early access to travel offers. It's the best way to stay connected and be part of the Wild Earth family.
But unfortunately, our view is blocked by 4 tons of elephant cow at the moment. youngster look as if it's taking an opportunity to also have a drink. Much older than I would normally expect an elephant still to be suckling, but they'll take the opportunity if it arises. If that female is lactating, maybe she's pregnant and her hormones are now beginning to produce milk. We'll have to see her sort of from the back or front on, see how distended her belly may be if she is carrying. Actually, just doing a quick check, and it seems there are reports of elephants continuing to suckle from their mothers until, believe it or not, up to the age of 10 years old. Oh, don't headbutt the camera. It's not a view that you want to see in real life, with an elephant's forehead that close to you. Purman Singh, you're also commenting on that elephant. I would normally have said yes, it was a little bit old to be suckling, but I've just found reference of elephants up to the age of 10 years suckling. So whether or not it's actually getting much milk, hard to know. It may just be almost like a comfort blanket, just a safety net of familiarity. Shame this hippo's decided it's too much happening on this side of the pond now. I shall go and find a little alcove and wait it out. That is a close-up. How cool is that, having a scratch against the tree upon which the camera is mounted, I assume, but that is a close encounter indeed. Feels like we're riding the elephant. I'm glad the camera's not a foot lower, otherwise we might be investing in a new camera in this location. That indeed was a close-up view of an elephant, an unusual angle, one to which we are not normally privy to. Very, very cool. It looks like water play time is over now. Our hippo can get back to his relaxing afternoon, potentially. But unfortunately, that hippo is going to have to get used to this. It's going to happen fairly regularly, particularly around this time of the year. Constant stream elephants coming down to drink. And I'm sure as he gets older and gets more used to it, he'll become a lot more tolerant, or, well, tolerant is probably the best word. He will just accept it. There's not much he can do about it. And chances are the elephants aren't going to give him a super hard time. And if they do, he'll just move out of their way. Robert McLean is saying, yes, there's a big muddy smudge on the camera now. We've just got a little bit of it. We'll have to get someone out there to give that a wipe, but probably best to give it a few minutes before doing so. Right, let's head elsewhere. I think we're going to go back up to Tau. Waterbuck's taking advantage of some of that aquatic vegetation just below the surface. And a giraffe, so quenching his thirst on the far right. Half a giraffe, a giraffe. Very peaceful scene here at Tau. Nobody in a hurry to do anything. Everyone enjoying a drink, everybody enjoying some food, birds having a little wade. All the elephants look pretty docile now. Oh, that male giraffe's got a missing patch of fur on his back, possibly some sort of mange or caused by a mite of some description. Quite normal to see that in giraffes. Anton Blind Pride, I did answer your question on bearded vultures, but with no great conviction, I have to say. So it's not a bird that I have seen myself, but here in South Africa, they are very much restricted to the area around Lesotho and those high Drakensberg mountains, maybe just a little bit into KZN, a little bit into the Eastern Cape, a little bit into the Free State, but always in association with those mountains. That is their preferred habitat. They nest on the cliffs. I'm unaware of any sightings of them away from that sort of area. And I'm not honestly sure what other countries that they occur in, but here in Southern Africa, or South Africa at least, as far as I know, pretty strictly restricted to those sorts of areas. Julian Thomas, you're enjoying Tau, variety of mammals and birds. Yeah, it's one of the best places to look for some aquatic bird life here, but these reeds and things are always helpful for that. We've got some white-faced whistling ducks hiding in and amongst the grass there, and a crocodile in the foreground. Ducks look as if they're keeping a close eye on the crocodile, but they're really not too concerned about its presence. Although the crocs here at Tau have been seen taking birds, so if one is stupid enough to get too close to the sharp end, to the dangerous end of the crocodile, always needs to be aware. A recycled teenager asking if elephants, rhinos and hippos have all evolved from one common species. Not to my knowledge, recycled teenager. My knowledge of the taxonomical history of these animals is not wonderful, but I think they've all divulged from different predecessors and have just ended up looking relatively similar or having similar traits, the thick skins, large sort of mega herbivores. But as far as I know, they all have different ancestors. I recently discovered that there have been a whole variety of elephant-based ancestors, some with 4 tusks. There were short-necked giraffes. If we go back, 100,000 years or a few hundred thousand years, there's quite a few unusual ancestors of these animals, but their specific lineage I'm not too clear on, but they haven't all come from the same progenitor. Safari Cat, you're saying there are bearded vultures in the Alps in Europe and possibly in the Pyrenees. Well, that would make sense, those mountainous areas. I believe that they do occur in Europe and possibly some of Asia as well. But it's not a bird that I've ever witnessed in person myself. Apparently there are a couple of isolated populations, one in Ethiopia, Kenya, Uganda, Tanzania, but yeah, otherwise Europe and North Africa, east into Asia is what my app says about the distribution. Habitat of alpine and mixed grasslands on rugged mountains and escarpments. So certainly the use of the word alpine would suggest that the Pyrenees and the Alps would be a good spot to find them.
Oh, wow.
At Wild Earth, we believe every story has the power to create change. That's why we've launched the Wild Earth Impact Foundation, a non-profit dedicated to conservation and social impact. By showcasing conservation stories, we can change lives, protect nature, and empower communities. We have partnered with Empowers Africa to accept tax-deductible donations from US donors. Your donation will help fund critical programs that support our mission. Join us and be part of the change.
traffic create those beautiful network of game paths that we also utilize when we are walking through the bush, because it's just easier to walk on those cleared areas than it is to sort of bash through the bush without too much control. Lots of thorns and other things to get tangled up in, and constant foot traffic on those game paths, particularly from things like hippos and rhinos, will keep them nice and open and cleared, and therefore facilitate use from all the other animals looking to get from point A to point B. Riley, you're saying, wouldn't walking in single file make predators think you are prey, like a zebra? Not really. It's just the way that pretty much all lions themselves walk in single file often if they're going from point A to point B. It's just how it's done in the bush for the reasons that I suggested. Obviously, from our perspective, we're generally not too concerned about being seen as prey by predators. Thankfully, lions do not see us as prey. They are intrinsically afraid of humans because of the persecution that we have subjected them to for thousands of years as people and from hunting. So more often than not, a predator will run from you even if you are out on foot, or more likely to on foot than you are in a vehicle. They get used to vehicles and don't have such negative associations with them. But it's just the best way of doing it. It's a less intimidating way to walk. Obviously, the idea of being out in the bush is to be as the animals are, to share their habitat. And if you can, you want to have some good views of things, and walking abreast from one another is a very intimidating approach to an animal that is maybe sitting there feeding. If a group of 8 people walking side by side approach you, that is 9.5 times out of 10 going to cause that animal to flee in fear. So also just doing less environmental damage. It's the same principle as if we have a sighting, an off-road sighting. All the vehicles don't choose their own pathways in, otherwise we would be trashing a huge area of bush. We generally have a rule in reserves of it's one route in, one route out, so that we only damage that one particular pathway of grass. We're not squashing unnecessary insects or tortoises or anything else that might be there, trying to limit the damage done. Shame that zebra's struggling to get up the slope. This elephant's a little bit perturbed by all the activity. You can see a few more bulls approaching from the back as well. Greetings, wildlife lady. I'm glad you are able to join us, even if you are an hour and 15 minutes in already. We've had some very nice sightings. We had a brief view of an African hawk eagle at Jackie's Sabi house. We've had some interesting hippo sightings, lots of elephants bathing and playing around in the mud. Beautiful pair of Inyala enjoying a drink. It's been a lovely start to the afternoon. The way these elephants shake their heads on the way down, plodding down these steep slopes. EJ, you're saying the elephant did not respect the zebra crossing. No, it didn't read the highway code, that elephant at the time, but I guess when you're 5, 6, 7 tons, you can afford to be a little bit bullish, I suppose. wonder if there's another inflow there, or maybe it's just a little pool that has formed, which is a good opportunity to have a little bit of a mud bath. Normally the inflow pipe is off to the left, where I think this elephant on the left was drinking from, looking rather longingly, I think, at that spot the other one has found. No, I think it's just a nice muddy pool of water from which to enjoy a dust bathe. Sure, look at this one come flying down the hill. I'm going to go barreling into those zebras. Quentin, you were saying, was that an impala rutting and has rutting season started yet? I didn't hear what you were referring to there, Quentin, but sometimes my audio is a bit questionable through my computer. But no, we should not be in rutting season. Rutting season has been and gone. It's normally rutting season for the impalas when all the males fight for their territories and for breeding opportunities is around about March, April, May. That's when most of the mating will take place, which then allows for a very specific lambing season around sort of November, December time. So we shouldn't be seeing much rutting, but if two males do decide to have a dispute, which they do sometimes, we might hear that characteristic sort of grunting and growling that impalas produce, not the sound you would expect a beautiful, petite, sleek antelope to produce. Otherwise, if it was just more of a snort, it could have been an alarm call, seeing of a predator. Of course, they make that sort of snorting noise. But there shouldn't be much in the way of, well, there shouldn't be any rutting behavior going on at the moment in terms of the traditional timings of it. A bit of a cue, a bit of a bottleneck at the top of this inflow here. There's two youngsters jostling for position at the pipe. And Wildlife Lady, you're loving the call of the fish eagles. Yes, much nicer than the hardy bars we were subjected to at Serendella, certainly.
What does it take to handle the wild? Balance. Determination. Focus.
Yaku!
And gear that can take a beating so you don't have to.
Out here, every wild moment matters, and as a Wild Earth explorer, you won't miss a thing. Watch the Wild Earth channel, ad-free 24/7, where you can even rewind and watch something again. Get access to behind-the-scenes videos, fireside chats, and access to early travel offers. It is the best way to stay connected and be part of the Wild Earth family.
Do you think we were saying earlier about those sort of whiskers that they've got? You can see how low that head is held to the ground whilst the hippo is walking. And that's where you'll often see that sort of little drag mark from the muzzle and the lovely imprints of those very, very firm whiskers dragging in the sand as well. Susie, no, I wouldn't say hippopods have a similar structure to elephants. Of course, that is a matriarchal society in elephants with a dominant female. It's the opposite in hippos. There'll be a dominant male and then a group of females and youngsters. But like elephants, the females will generally stay within the group, but the young males will be ousted once they start reaching sexual maturity by the dominant male. So in that regard, it's similar, but it is the pod of hippos is controlled, dare I say that word, use that word, by a dominant male as opposed to females in elephant society. Okay, but we're going to stay in Botswana and head back over to Moena Quenya, if I'm saying that correctly. Quite the quagmire that's been created here, but perfect if you're an elephant looking for a dust bath, or a mud bath rather. Close-knit group of elephants doing something over there. Gilip, I don't know how far away those two cameras are from each other. I'm afraid I'd have to do some work on Google Maps and try and figure it out for you. It's not an area that I have visited personally. I have been fortunate enough to go to Botswana a couple of times, hosted one or two safaris up in the Kwai area. But regrettably, it's not a country that I travel to a lot at the moment for work-wise. But I would love to get up there and see some of the areas. I've been into, say, the edge of the delta. That area around the Kwai region is spectacular. We had some unbelievable leopard sightings. The first time I went up, I think in the space of 3 days, we saw something like 12 different individual leopards, which we found all ourselves. Incredible density of population up there. And the second time I went up was in the rainy season, where we only saw a couple of leopards, but still got a few. Of course, plenty of other things, but it was very interesting to see the contrast between wet and dry season. We were very much restricted in terms of area we could drive because of the flooding that had occurred. But I've never been up to the Bateti River region. Out of interest, Tulip, I'm going to see if I can figure it out for you, because I don't know is the answer. Right, it actually looks as if they are quite close together. It's hard to give you a specific distance, but it does seem that they are relatively close, geographically speaking, from a quick look on Google Maps. But let's head back over to Madikwe to Tau. And some very static crocodiles. Of course, we have seen some crocodile mating over the last few weeks from speaking to some of the other naturalists when I saw it last week, but apparently it has been going on for a little while, so maybe we'll be fortunate enough to have some baby crocs at some point during the summer. Females, of course, will head up to the bank, dig a little hole, lay their eggs, and then stay in relatively close proximity to that area, trying to protect those eggs. Parental care, not something we see too much of in reptiles. We see a little bit in pythons, but that's about it, I think, in terms of reptile care. And then, of course, the interesting thing about crocodiles is they're along with tortoises as well. The sex of the embryo will be dictated by temperature, as we call temperature-dependent sex variation. But it's the opposite way around in crocodiles and in tortoises. So in tortoises, those eggs incubated at a slightly higher temperature, sort of above 31 degrees or thereabouts, will generally be females. Those below about 28 degrees or 27, 28 degrees will be males, and then you'll get a 50-50 distribution in the middle, and the opposite is true in crocodiles. And wonderful if you do stumble across a little creche of baby crocs. But be aware that Mum may be monitoring them. She does for the first couple of weeks, just to give them that leg up in life. I'd say, unfortunately, success rate for crocs is not great. General statistic that's thrown around is that only one crocodile out of every 50 will actually reach adulthood. They're not always top of the food chain when you're little. All right, let's head up to Old Donyo for a change. Melanistic Marble, you're saying the loving couple of those two crocs. I know there's 3 or 4 in there. Hard to know which ones were doing the mating, but we will watch this space with interest. But up Old Donyo, elephant bull having a drink, nice eland in the background, and a couple of giraffe floating around as well. What are you considering, Mr. Elephant? You're not drinking. What are you doing? Just thinking about a mud bath, maybe? Just contemplating life. We are having a drink. Unusual to see one drinking from this side, unless there is another one who has staked claim to the inflow pipe. It's a very languid drink that one just had. Rolly, you're saying we don't really see the elephants going into the water here, and why would that be? Well, I think, to be honest, well, it's because it's so small, it's not really worth getting in. Maybe because they all know that this may well be the only water source for a while around, and if they go into it and stir it all up and have sediment dispersed through the water, it won't be so nice for drinking. So maybe there's a mutual respect in that regard to keep the water as pure as one can, but not really big enough or deep enough. It's only about a foot deep, I think, this little puddle up here at Old Donia. So I guess there's not much point if you are towering 3 or 4 meters to just to go into the water. We do sometimes see them standing in there, but certainly not rolling around and enjoying it the way we see in other areas. But he looks very chilled, this big bull. Little twitch from him there, possibly in response to that oryx who was dashing around in the background, just movement being picked up. Picasso, I couldn't tell you how long an elephant's tongue is, if I'm honest. It's fairly substantial. It's like I don't know how you describe it really, but it's you only really ever see it when the mouth is very much open. I don't think they can really extend the tongue particularly far out of the mouth, or not something that I've ever seen. You just see bits and pieces of it poking out. But to give you a size or weight, I'll have to see if I can find out for you. So give me a second or two, and I'll see if I can find something reliable. Right, unsubstantiated source, but around 30 to 40 centimeters long and can weigh up to about 12 kilograms. But I suppose you don't need such an established tongue when you've got a trunk and you can place that food in the mouth specifically where you want it. Melanistic marble, he does have rather dirty tusks, doesn't he? I agree. Possibly because of the time of year and digging up vegetation, digging up roots and tubers and bulbs, maybe digging up soil to create a good environment for a mud bath. But yeah, definitely signs of exposure there. Could use a little bit of a polish. You can see those thick hairs around the chin as well, just to help guide the trunk. Impossible to see your mouth when there's a great big nose in the way. Alright, let's take a trip down to the Eastern Cape to Mantis Founders Lodge. Ah, and our white rhinoceri. Mother and calf, always beautiful to see. Hopefully someone will come down and have a drink and have a bit of a roll in the mud, do their hippo impression, and doesn't look as if they've been bathing as of yet. Skin all looks relatively dry. Yeah, but maybe time to move on. Oh, short but sweet, but always nice to get a view of the rhino down here at Mantis Founders Lodge. So last week we had an amazing sighting. There were 6 or 7 of them loitering around the waterhole back then. Just a little stump of a horn in between the rocks there at the top. We'll see if they come back, but let's head down to Tembe Elephant Park. Much greener, of course, down here, close to the Indian Ocean. More humidity in the air, the vegetation not struggling quite as much as it is in other areas of the continent. Much to the delight of all the herbivores. Dark Moon, I know you were saying what a majestic, alien, beautiful ears. Absolutely. And a miniature version as well. Felt a bit sorry for that little one. He was enjoying a drink when Mum wandered off, and the youngster dutifully followed, knows to stay close.
let's go and take a look. See you out there.
The Wild Earth Impact Foundation is a non-profit that uses the power of wildlife storytelling as a force for good. We create sustainable development projects that showcase conservation stories, empower people, and inspire environmental action. As a registered South African PBO, you can make a tax-deductible donation to the Wild Earth Impact Foundation. To find out more, visit our website. Step into the heart of Africa from the comfort of your home.
Female leopard tracks over here.
Join our expert guides for a live 3-hour safari where every moment is real, unscripted, and unforgettable. Ask questions.
Animals rely on their senses.
Share your thoughts and be part of the experience as we explore together. Safari Live. Safari, wine, and waterfalls. The ultimate African adventure. Sip South Africa's finest wines. Experience a world-class safari among Africa's iconic wildlife. And stand in front of Victoria Falls, one of the natural wonders of the world. All this can be yours with Wild Earth Travel, where Africa comes alive.
Around at the moment. We look forward to those first rains of the season. All right, let's go back up to Botswana and Menuakwenya. Ah, nice group of kudus under the watchful gaze of a crocodile. Nice to see the kudus emerging from the undergrowth. These two staring at the crocodile. They are really not sure where those ears are directed straight towards it. Really sure if we like that. I wouldn't suggest that's a good position to go and drink. Interesting curiosity being shown there. I had a very interesting sighting down at Mabula a few months ago when I was there with Wild Earth. And unfortunately, we couldn't get it live, but I think we were able to show a little pre-recorded clip of a huge crocodile lying in the middle of the road and a kudu also just staring at it from the distance, trying to work out what was going on. Eventually, the crocodile disappeared over the bank, but it was very interesting just to see the kudu processing the information, trying to work out whether it was dangerous or not. Julian Thomas and Recycled Teenager UK. I'm glad you've enjoyed the show today. It's definitely been an elephant-fueled day, but with a little smattering of some interesting things of young hippos out of the water and that African hawk eagle. I'd say this is rather interesting to watch. The reaction of these kudus. They just intrinsically know that crocodiles are something to be watched very, very carefully. I feel a bit sorry for the croc. He's just chilling there. He's not trying to hide from them. Yeah, I'd rather maybe drink just down there somewhere. Oh, no, avoid the elephant. Shame. You can hear the little keeping of, I assume, that blacksmith lapwing or another blacksmith lapwing. Of course, that's where the name comes from, that tink, tink, tink sound, supposedly sounding like a hammer being hit onto anvil during metalwork by a blacksmith. Also that black bib, rather like a blacksmith would wear as well.
This is an unbelievable afternoon.
I get to wake up every morning and go out there and look for cats. I get to create my everyday safari for myself. I grew up in the sort of central eastern suburbs of Johannesburg, fully qualified trails guide and a fully qualified nature conservationist. I love the wild places. I love being in the wilderness. It's probably one of the best jobs I've ever had and probably ever could have.
If you love watching Wild Earth, here's a little tip. Become a member. You can gain access to the channel ad-free, you can rewind and re-watch sightings, and you can join our Tuesday live safaris. There's also behind the scenes videos, fireside chats, and every Safari Live episode, whenever you want it. It's just a better way to stay connected to nature.
Spas, I'm glad you also enjoyed the elephants. There have been plenty of elephant sightings today. This one deciding that a paddle and maybe even a swim is going to be a good way to finish the show today. Or at least to oust the zebras who were quite happily standing in the water. It's found a little island upon which to have a trunk scratch. That's interesting. You can see them having a drink there. It looks like the elephants have dug themselves a hole, let natural filtration do its thing, and got the cleanest water that they possibly can. Not uncommon to see that in these dry riverbeds, these systems of drainage lines, particularly where there is what we call a dike, so a vertical intrusion of an intrusive igneous rock, normally something like dolerite, acts like a little dam, and any underwater flow will back up against it. The elephants know this. They can, we think, smell that water, and they will dig down and allow the water to seep through the sand. But here, just like on the beach, if you're a little bit inland from the water and dig a hole, eventually it'll start flooding. And there's the most efficient way to filter the water and get the cleanest water possible. They don't drink seawater, that won't end very well for you. If we do the same thing on a privative trail, rather dig a hole next to the water hole and then collect that filtered water and then boil it if you can, just to remove any of those impurities. What are you doing, little one? You got bored? I'm just going for a wander. It's a baby elephant and a young zebra. Something to chase. The zebra getting out of dodge before he gets trapped in this wall of elephants. Lizzie, thank you for joining us. I'm glad you've enjoyed it, and you will see/hear me again on Thursday. I'm not quite sure which of my colleagues will be looking after you all tomorrow, but I'll be back again on Thursday for another 2 hours of African camera fun. And so we'll always look forward to hearing from everybody again. But it is always time for the end of the show now. We are down to about the last minute. But what a lovely way to finish. These two youngsters having a little bit of a face-off. Wonder if they're going to have a little bit of a push and a shove. That young one testing its might, perhaps. And we're just checking in with Big Brother. But that's pretty much it, unfortunately, for today. But do stay tuned to all the cameras. And don't forget to join us again tomorrow. I will be back on Thursday, but have a great rest of your Tuesday.
Welcome to Safari Spotlight. We're going to discover some real wildlife gems. This is a virtual safari full of beauty, wildlife, and stories. We're going to discover some unique and diverse reserves, spend time with some famous animal characters, and learn some real conservation stories. If you like any of the locations you see on Safari Spotlight, our experts at Wild Earth Travel are standing by to make your dreams come true.